Hi, I'm Michael Warren with Arclight Reviews, and this is my unboxing of Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial. This is one of the great family favorite films out there, and it's one of the best films ever made. If it's not Spielberg's best film, it's at least, I think, his most heartfelt. I think there is, for every great filmmaker, one movie that really helps to encapsulate his entire aesthetic, his entire philosophy of filmmaking, and I think Steven Spielberg, that film for Steven Spielberg is E.T. Some people might, bring up having different favorites, including Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Schindler's List, and a variety of other films. But for my money, the most pure Steven Spielberg film there is, which just encapsulates the essence of who Steven Spielberg is as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, is right there in E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. And in fact, his little goddaughter, Drew Barrymore, played a very pivotal part in the film as Elliot's younger sister, Gertie. And she does a really good job, and it helped propel her to stardom as a 5-year-old. And I applaud Drew Barrymore for doing such a great job. When I was thinking of films that are special about Halloween, the big Halloween movies that stuck out to me were actually the ones with a science fiction twist, including Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Now, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial is beloved by so many. Ever since it first arrived, E.T. has really hit the scene running as one of the best feel-good movies out there. It really feels like an artistic expression meeting a pop culture moment. And I remember when M. Night Shyamalan discussed how he wanted to make movies that were not just films, but cultural phenomena. And in particular, he felt like he succeeded with The Sixth Sense, where it actually influenced and changed the way people talk about things and had such an impact that people who haven't even seen the film kind of understand aspects of it, like I see dead people, and these different phrases and these different concepts from the movie, how it permeates our culture. And I think that Steven Spielberg, when it comes to cultural phenomena, although Schindler's List was up there, Raiders of the Lost Ark was up there, Jaws was up there, I think E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial was the pivotal cultural phenomenon. And, Jurassic Park and other really great pop culture phenomena from Steven Spielberg, it's kind of almost synonymous, where I think one of the things that M. Night Shyamalan wanted to do was to emulate Steven Spielberg in his career. And to a degree, his early film career really did have a lot of promise of that. And I think there's still potential for M. Night Shyamalan. I think that aspect of him, where he can make these really great, interesting movies that reach out to popular culture, I think that filmmaker is still in him. I think he's going through something. Anyway, but here's the truth. Spielberg, there's few filmmakers I have greater respect for. And even though a lot of people kind of overlook him in terms of talking about the up-and-coming new wave Hollywood picture filmmakers, including George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, that group of filmmakers, Steven Spielberg, I think, sometimes gets unfairly ignored, and he shouldn't be, because I think he may be the most talented of them all, at the very least. I remember Plinkett once said about Titanic that it was a film that aimed for the middle, and it hit dead center. And because of that, it's strange. There's a little bit of elitism sometimes in Hollywood, where they look down on popular filmmakers as sometimes being lesser artists than the other filmmakers. Now, I think when Schindler's List came out, Spielberg had been on his bent to win an Oscar for a long time, and that was his due. He really earned the Oscar many times before. I think The Empire of the Sun was one of the great. It may have been one of Spielberg's greatest films that's not really that well known. And it was a huge Oscar contender, and it didn't win the Oscar. Spielberg made a lot of wonderful movies that are some of my favorite movies. So I think sometimes people have heard me sometimes talk about how Spielberg has occasionally, I think, sometimes dipped over into being the businessman a little bit more than being just the storyteller. And I think that's true. And it sometimes has negatively impacted some of his films, like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, one of the follow-ups to in the Indiana Jones series. But let's be honest, for as many misses as Spielberg has, he probably has at least twice as many hits. And I'll be the first to admit that Spielberg is one of the best filmmakers out there. And if he's not the best filmmaker, he's at least in contention. He should at least be in the conversation. When you're talking about the great filmmakers, especially over kind of the last quarter of the 20th century, it's very difficult to really look past Spielberg, who had such incredible appeal. So I love this film. I grew up with E.T. I actually loved Henry Thomas, not just for his portrayal as Elliot in E.T., but I was also a big fan of another one of his films that's not as well known, called Cloak and Dagger, where he's kind of a D&D player. He likes to roll the dice and role play as a kid, and he gets involved in kind of this different adventure in real life that's much more different than what he's role played before. And I love that film, and it's one of my favorites. And so whenever I think of Henry Thomas, I really connect to the guy. And so when I see him pop up in films like in Gangs of New York, I've seen him in television series like The Mentalist and other shows like that, I am always excited to see Henry Thomas because I think he's a very excellent actor, and he has been since he was a child. That goes for Drew Barrymore as well. Those two actors really connected to me, and I think they did a wonderful job. And Spielberg really deserves a lot of credit for helping to elicit such incredible performances out of such young actors. And part of it is him just casting it right. I actually saw a YouTube video, which I'll post a link to down below in the description, where you can see Henry Thomas audition for Steven Spielberg for E.T. And the kid was a powerhouse. He was so emotionally connected to that character and that situation. He was able to deliver such incredible performance on command, and he could take instruction kind of on the fly and adapt it into his performance. There's a lot of actors who've been acting for decades that wasn't able to deliver a performance like that, and Henry Thomas did it as a small child. And I think Drew Barrymore is up there as well. Anyway, one of the great things too is tonight we're going to be doing a double feature, which is E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial, and Donnie Darko, both of which actually feature Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is a little girl, and then in Donnie Darko we have a grown-up Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore was actually pivotal in helping Donnie Darko to get the funding it needed so that Richard Kelly could direct it as a young first-time filmmaker. And he knocked it out of the park. As freshman film goes, you have Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, and you have Donnie Darko. To me, those are probably the best first films from filmmakers. Tarantino, he was great with Reservoir Dogs. There are a bunch of other filmmakers who are great with their different movies, but so I'm excited to unbox it. I'm excited to get into the nitty-gritty. This is a special Steelbook edition of the movie, and honestly, I think that one of the best qualities of this, in some of the other discs, in the other standard edition Blu-rays, it just looks a little bit more boring. It doesn't have quite as much of a shine or as much kind of a magic to it. And that's the thing I feel with E.T. is that it's meant to feel like the magic of childhood and help transport any viewer, no matter how young or old, to feel like a child again. And the fact that it blends such interesting science fiction elements, and it features so heavily so many scenes around Halloween, makes this a very interesting film. It's going to launch my science fiction meets the supernatural Halloween viewing party for ArcLight Reviews, and I'm really excited. So we're starting off with E.T. and Donnie Darko, and we're going to keep on going our way through. It's worth noting I think this had an impact on the development of Goonies later on that Spielberg was one of the producers of. The Goonies and E.T. were both very influential, as was Stephen King's works like Stand By Me. Those were all very influential on the development of Stranger Things. And Stranger Things is one of the best things to come out on streaming services in years, especially the first season. The second and third seasons, variable quality in terms of storytelling, but that first season is so solid and amazing, and it's one of those things that we'll probably talk about at some point, even if we don't hit it this particular Halloween session. Without E.T., you wouldn't really have that. And one of the things I really found interesting about this pairing, not only the Drew Barrymore connection, but the fact that there's actually an homage in Donnie Darko to E.T., including in the costume of Elliot being mimicked by Donnie Darko character. And aside from that, there's also this kind of fantastical quality, and when all of his friends kind of go on their bicycles on Halloween night with him in his costume, you know, it feels like a resurrection of sorts of E.T. back into Donnie Darko form. So let's go ahead and take a look at the movie itself and do an unboxing, and you can check it out for yourself and see if it's if this particular edition is something that you're interested in, and if not, you can always find links to some of the other editions of the film. But yeah, this is the first time that E.T. is being released on 4K, UHD, or ultra high definition, which is near film quality. It's close. It's very close. We're getting pretty much on parity with the resolution and quality of film, almost. There's still differences, and when you get to IMAX film stock and things like that, you can kind of blow away any type of digital filmmaking still. So I wouldn't say photochemical film is dead like a lot of other people do, but I do think a lot of digital techniques and stuff are coming in that are really going to be wonderful. And but this is really one of the best versions of E.T. that you could possibly have, and it's one that they would project in movie theaters today, and people would not probably complain because it would look almost as good as 35mm film. A few degrees under, but it's close. It's in the ballpark. So let's go down and let's explore this case and see what's inside. And welcome to our unboxing for E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. This edition of the film contains a theatrical cut. There's over 3 hours of bonus features, deleted scenes, Steven Spielberg and E.T., the E.T. journals, a look back, the evolution and creation of E.T., the E.T. reunion, the music of E.T., a discussion with John Williams, 20th anniversary premiere, designs, photographs and marketing, theatrical trailer. The deleted scenes were actually part of a special edition version earlier on, and this is actually only has the theatrical cut, which is good. Nobody really liked the special edition cut where they removed the firearms and replaced them with walkie-talkies from the federal agents. That was not a winner, but you know, you can't win them all, and people did like the beauty of the theatrical cut the best, but it is nice to be able to have that extra footage from the special edition cut of E.T. as deleted scenes and special extra footage. So the magic begin. Let's open this up and see what we got inside. The plastic wrap comes off easily. And there's a little bit of adhesive on this plastic version, which I don't really like with Steelbooks because it tends to mar the Steelbook a little bit. If you can see it, I can't tell if you can see it, but there's a very slight smudge there from the adhesive. It rubs off pretty easily though, but sometimes these packages sit around for years with that adhesive on the Steelbook, and over time those adhesives can be fairly corrosive to the Steelbook and cause problems. So I'd watch out for that. Universal Studios. So I personally like to keep these little cardboard slip covers because I think that they have a lot of great information on them, and including the running time and the credits of cast and crew. I think people do tend to kind of regret not having that type of information, which usually is included on the case, but nowadays it's more fun to kind of have a slightly more minimalist case. This is getting smudged all over it. I'm gonna wash my hands and come right back. So watch out. There is some schmutz and different stuff that can happen from the adhesive, and you wanna make sure you are careful because you don't wanna smudge up the nice semi-reflective surface of the Steelbook case. I mean, this is a nice collectible version, so I'm gonna make sure that the strange little adhesive stuff that got spread around gets wiped off this Steelbook. This comes off easily. I'm gonna try drying it. Okay, looks pretty good. Yeah, I can't tell if you could see the schmutz before, but it did create a bit of a mark, and it's still kind of causing problems. You want to make sure everything looks as nicely as possible so you get an idea of what it looks like in mint condition. There is some strange stuff on this case that needs to be wiped off, and I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. Sorry if I'm boring you, I'll try to cut around this as much as I can, but the back looks like it's in pretty good condition. Yeah, I believe in being meticulous and clean with your physical discs because it's very easy for 4K and Blu-ray, and to a lesser extent DVD, to get very compromised if the case gets sticky or dirty in any way. So it could definitely make it so you can't even watch the film. Even though I don't use the download codes right now, I do plan on probably developing a system where I will be using them in the future. So on my personal versions, a hard drive library of films as well. But I am a big fan of ultra high definition discs, these 4K discs. This is very beautiful. I like the artwork. I like the emphasis on this kind of iconic scene. We've talked about this before, but it's always nice when they include a Blu-ray version of the film, which you can see clearly here. Let's get close up. The artwork is pretty nice. It's good. I've been pretty spoiled on stuff ever since opening up the the 4K edition of Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies. But you know, as sets go, as Steelbook sets go, this is pretty nice. I think they lifted this from the film, and let's see if there's a finish to this that we can spot. It's probably not foil etched. If it is, they did a good job of kind of dampening it down and matting it down to the point where you can't tell. But so it's not as shiny or as bright as I would hope. But yeah, if you ever do want to take off the plastic cover, you can see the artwork inside. But I prefer keeping the plastic intact. I don't like disrupting it too much. I believe in keeping the Blu-ray copy of E.T. in the back, or of any movie, keeping the 4K version in the front, so that way you don't confuse the two and accidentally watch the less high quality version, because you have a far superior image with 4K. Let's check this out. Ooh, the back is actually really nice. I wasn't expecting that, because it's covered up under the slip case. You can't really see this artwork as well. Yeah, this is good. This is a great moment for the film, and it's cool that they preserved it on the discs as well. But yeah, the addition of the moon and stuff, you can see that they actually photoshopped that into the background from this moment. And this happens a little bit earlier than that shot, so they're kind of combining elements on the disc, which is perfectly fine. You're free to do that. So this is a beautiful set, and for those of you who are fans, I think this is the best physical copy of E.T. that I found when I looked, and I looked very thoroughly through all the stores. I believe I found this particular copy at Target. I'm not sure. I think that's not an exclusive though. I think you could find this in a lot of places. I think you should be able to find this on Amazon. I included an affiliate link down below where you can follow it, and it'll help out the channel, and it won't cost you any extra. And it's a nice way to show that people watch these unboxings and my reviews, and it helps inspire you guys to find these movies for yourself and check them out. So thank you for joining me, and I can't wait to get into Donnie Darko next, which unfortunately there is no 4K version of Donnie Darko, but There is different high definition Blu-ray copies and DVD versions of it floating out there in different cuts. For the purposes of our rewatch, we're actually watching the theatrical cut of Donnie Darko. Anyway, I'm excited. The E.T. is great. It's one of my favorite films. And with this version, it should be easier than ever to help your children and your children's children and so on to become fans. And you always have a nice copy of the movie that you can hold on to as a collectible and pass down if you're so inclined. Thank you for joining me on ArcLight Reviews, and I'll be seeing you soon. Happy Halloween. And now it's